भजेतर्हमेध्यपि यथा देशं यथा कालं यावद्दैवोपपादितं Even if one is a householder rather than a brahmachari, a sannyasi or a vanaprastha, one should not endeavor very hard for religiosity, economic development, or satisfaction of the senses. Even in householder life, one should be satisfied to maintain body and soul together with whatever is available with minimum endeavor. According to place and time, by the grace of the Lord, one should not engage oneself in ugra karma. And the Prabhupada Prabhupada says, first one should be religious, observing various rules and regulations, and then one must earn some money for maintenance of his family and the satisfaction of his senses. So you can do for your senses, but it must be controlled. The most important ceremony for sense gratification is marriage, because sexual intercourse is one of the principal necessities of the material body. Therefore, marriage is important. In the next paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, Brahmana grihastas should be satisfied with the life of adhyayana, adhyapana, yajana, and yajana. Being learned scholars, teaching others to be scholars, learning how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and also teaching others how to worship Lord Vishnu or even the demigods. Brahmana should do this without remuneration. He shouldn't take money. But he is allowed to accept charity from a person whom he teaches how to be a human being. Okay, so you cannot say how much you want, but whatever they give, you should accept. As for the Kshatriyas, they are supposed to be the kings of the land, and the land should be distributed to the Vaishyas for agricultural activities, cow protection and trade. Shudras must work. Sometimes they should engage in occupational duties as cloth manufacturers, weavers, blacksmiths, goldsmiths, brass-smiths, and so on. Or else they should engage in hard labor to produce food grains. Okay, then in the next paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, at the present moment, however, everyone is engaged in technological advancement, which is described in Bhagavad Gita as ugra karma, extremely severe endeavor. This ugra karma is the cause of agitation within the human mind. Men are engaging in many sinful activities and becoming degraded by opening slaughterhouses, breweries, and cigarette factories, as well as nightclubs and other establishments for sense enjoyment. Right? So now this place area was very nice and peaceful. Some houses were built, then more and more houses are built. Now no more houses, they're building condos, townhouses, apartments, and then they're building shopping centers. So all these are considered ugra karma, over endeavor. All for sense enjoyment. So towards the middle of that paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, this means that 3/4 of the entire population should stop sense gratification. Okay. And simply by engaged in advancement of Krishna consciousness. Only 1/4 of the population should be grihastha. And that should be according to laws of restricted sense gratification. The grihasthas, vanaprasthas, brahmacharis, and sannyasis should endeavor together with their total energy to become Krishna conscious. This type of civilization is called Deva Varnashram. Okay, so that's the main thing. Not without Krishna, but with Krishna. You can have your sense gratification, but it shouldn't over-endeavor unnecessarily. That's why he says 1/4 of the population should be married, and the other 3/4 should be engaged in worshipping Krishna. But everybody wants to enjoy senses. So that's what you are seeing.
They enjoyed a lot, and now people want to leave Samamish.
Yeah.
It's so crowded.
It become crowded because everybody finds enjoyment here. Text 11. Kaman samvijayata Apyegamatmanodaram Nirnam Saratvagrahoyata. Dogs, fallen persons, and untouchables, including chandalas, dog eaters, should all be maintained with their proper necessities, which should be contributed by the householders, dogs also for them. Even one's wife at home, with whom one is most intimately attached, should be offered for the reception of guests and people in general. I don't think you buy a dog for the chandala or something like that, so they can eat. Not like that. But I think whatever they need, you can give them something. Prabhupada says in modern society, dog is accepted as part of one's household paraphernalia. In the Vedic system of household life, the dog is untouchable. Here they kiss and so on. No? As mentioned here, a dog may be maintained with proper food, but it cannot be allowed to enter one's house. Here it sleeps on the bed with them. What to speak of the bedroom? Outcasts or untouchable chandalas should also be provided with the necessities for life. That means the basic necessities, what they need. So, habitat, living and all. So, for humanity. So it's like that. In one sense, yeah, it's a good, but how does it impact the society should be seen. They should all do some devotional service, right? Otherwise, freely living, they will become very disruptive or create chaos to society. Prabhupada says at the present moment, for example, lower class men are generally paid quite amply, but instead of using their money to cultivate knowledge and advance in life, such low class men use their extra money for wine drinking and similar sinful activities. Obviously, low class people cannot do the work of a higher class or intelligent people. Therefore, we need to have some kind of segregation, which is why they have the Varnashram system. Okay, like that. But who can help all these low-class people? That's the other question. And so Prabhupada recommends that, they should be maintained, but they should also do some service. They should support, like Shudras and so on. They should do something. In that way, they are not getting everything for free and living like a lazy person. Prabhupada also compares with the communists. He said the communist people are favoring of everyone having their necessities for life. But he says they only think of the human beings and not the animals. Yeah. Then he says the Bhagavatam's principles are so broad. However, that he recommends the necessities of life be supplied to everyone, man or animal, regardless of good or bad qualities. So that's a difficult situation. When you think, will I do this? Right? You look somebody, like in many places you go, and they say, oh, I don't like this group of people. They don't look nice. So I won't support them. Oh, very bad people. They are coming near our place. But Prabhupada says, regardless of good or bad qualities, they should have some necessities. And then he talks about in the last paragraph how the wife should also help in the welcoming people, and then, like that. Not that they lock her up in a room just for their own sake.
Olden days it was like that.
In the olden days, I'm not sure how old it was, but I think when the Muslims and all they came, it was like that. People kept the wives indoor, locked them up, afraid of getting kidnapped or raped or something like that. So those are an introduced system, maybe, I feel. Yeah. So basically, one shouldn't be so attached to family life. Text 12.
Jaya Yadati Swanpranan
Jaya Swanpranan
Anyadva Pitaram Gurum
Anyadva Pitaram Gurum
Dasyam
Tasya Swatvam Swiyam Jaya Yastena Yajito Jitaha. One so seriously considers one's wife to be his own that he sometimes kills himself or her or kills others, including even his parents or his spiritual master or teacher. Therefore, if one can give up his attachment to such a wife, he conquers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's never conquered by anyone. That means take the attachment from the family life and give it or put it upon Krishna like that. Because Prabhupada says householder life means attachment to one's wife, whereas sannyas means detachment from one's wife and attachment to Krishna. So whether you're married or not, you should be attached to Krishna more than your partner, whether it's husband or wife. Since generally the women are attached to husbands, if the husband is Krishna conscious, then the wife benefits also like that. Right? Text 13.
Krimi Vedvarman Ishtantam
Krimi Vedvarman Ishtantam Kvedam Tucham Kalevaram Kvatadiyarati Bharya Through proper deliberation, one should give up attraction to his wife's body, because that body will ultimately be transformed into small insects, stool, or ashes. What is the value of this insignificant body? How much greater is the Supreme Being who's all pervading like the sky? So if one is very attached to the wife, it causes problem. He may be thinking of the wife when he dies, and then he'll become a woman in the next life, or even has to go and suffer in different life before he becomes a woman, like that. Now the body is temporary. The verse it says when they die, if they are buried, then the insects will eat, okay, and then the worms will come out of it, right? And all animals will see the body, they'll eat the body, and then they'll pass through. Or you burn the body and becomes ashes. So this is three ways the body can change. Prabhupada says even vultures will come and eat the body and becomes vultures too. Or dog or any animal like that.
In some, I think some culture in India, they don't do burn or bury.
They just leave it.
Leave it.
Yeah, there's Parsi
Parsis.
Parsis, yeah. They have these open rooms where they leave the dead body, the birds will come and eat. Done. Even today.
Vultures, not birds. All birds. Some birds. Or insects, ants, like that. So the body will go anytime. Antavanta ime deha nitya shokta sharirina. So we should know the body can go anytime. So better to give up attachment to the body now than when you're about to die, right? It's very hard to give up the body. Text 14.
Siddharyan Vasis Siddhartha
Siddhayagna Vashishthathai
Kalpaye Vidhimatmana
Kalpaye Vidhimatmana
Sheshe Patvam Tatyatan Prajna
Sheshe Swatvam Prajna Padavim Mahatamiyat. An intelligent person should be satisfied with eating prasada, food offered to the Lord, or with performing the 5 different kinds of yajna, pancha suna. By such activities, one can give up attachment for the body and so call proprietorship with reference to the body. When one is able to do this, he is firmly fixed in the position of a Mahatma. So we offer, because everything is actually given to us by Krishna. Not only to us, for all other living entities. So therefore Prabhupada says, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. So therefore we have to give thanks to Krishna by offering whatever we have to Krishna. Okay. And then by accepting that Krishna blessed the food, by accepting it, then we are able to control our senses. And in controlling our senses, we can give up the enjoyment of the body. Okay. like that. So again, Srila Prabhupada again keeps saying the same thing and emphasizing to all of us that we should not be very anxious about economic development, thinking, oh, how much I need before I retire, right? Then you, like I said, you do never know. It's never going to work out, no matter how you work out. It's not going to work out. You may think, oh, I'll give this much of money to my family. Let's say you're dying, and then you write a will. Then you die, you think everything is done. But then the world situation can change, the government can change. And then they'll say all the money that the dead person leaves goes to the government. Yeah. And then everyone else, too bad, like that. So many things can change. So you cannot predict this material world. You cannot predict. Therefore, best is to try to become, as he says, firmly fixed in the position of a Mahat. So you know Krishna will protect you.
There was this former country called Yugoslavia, which divided into Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, and all that. So when the Croats attacked the Bosnians, they occupied all their land. So there was one major in the army, Croatian army, who was a Krishna devotee. So he took all that land and he gave it to devotees. Like he occupied the enemy land and he gave it to the devotees. Like that. So land can be taken away anytime.
Yeah, land can be taken away. Krishna will take it away, give it to someone else. Right? So we shouldn't be wasting our time to just developing our economic necessities, because it's going to go once you die. That's it. Text 15.
Devanashina Bhutani
Devanashina Bhutani
Pitranatmanam Svavidyagata Yajeta Purushamrita. Every day one should worship the Supreme Being who is situated in everyone's heart. And on this basis, one should separately worship the demigods, the saintly persons, ordinary human beings, and living entities, one's forefathers and one's self. In this way, one is able to worship the Supreme Being in the core of everyone's heart. Text 16. When one is enriched with wealth and knowledge, which are under his full control, and by means of which he can perform yagna or please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one must perform sacrifices, offering oblations to the fire according to the directions of the Shastras. In this way, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless you know, as Prabhupada says, the knowledge in the scriptures, how to do, what to do, when to do, we will not even do all these activities. His point is you won't do this. You want to perform a yagna to the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada says, even if you act on that platform, you have to understand the principle. You are engaged in the occupational duties, but you're not supposed to enjoy the results of those duties. So therefore he says, Yagnat karmana anyatra lokayam karma vandana. Because if you do that, then you become entangled again. Entangled into the cycle of birth, death, and old age, like that. Therefore, we have to be very careful. Particularly for us in the age of Kali Yuga, it's so difficult to do so many things, right? Correct or not? Yeah. It's so difficult. We cannot sit properly, we cannot focus, we have to fight with one another. Right? Right or not? Always like that. But because of that, the Lord also, right? He feels sorry for us. Manda, Sumanda, Martabagyo. And we also have what? Ayush, Alpa Ayush. Short lifespan, huh? And always disturbed. So therefore, the Lord is compassionate. In this Kali Yuga, He gives you the process to simply just change. You don't have to do many things. One just have to chant. If you chant, then you won't have any anxiety, any kind of feelings of, why I'm treated this way, why I'm not that way. Right? Everybody wants to be treated nicely, Correct or not? We all want to be treated. But then we find it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes people are nice to you, other times, who gives a damn? And then another time, you are nobody, right? So that is the reality, actually. But because of that, and because we are already going through so much distress, the Lord has given us a very simple process of chanting the holy name, right? Sankirtan movement, right or not? So you have to chant every day, right? But instead, in Kali Yuga, because of our focus is also disturbed, we are distracted by so many things. Like in the previous verse, Prabhupada was saying how Ugra Karma, people create so many things. Scientists, all of them give you so many different kinds to enjoy, Whatever the army, in fact, many invention is from the army, They put so much research and funds into coming up, and whatever they don't like, they give it to the consumers.
Fertilizers started fertilizers started after second.
Fertilizers, yeah.
Even internet started there.
Internet,
ARPANET started.
ARPANET. So they ARPANET. Give it to us to suffer. But that's how it was, So those kind of things are actually Maya's way of engaging us back again in this material world. Ugra Karma, exactly.
I was driving in Silicon Valley. There's a boat there. Flying cars are coming.
Yeah, they are really putting effort into that. Then you'll have a lot of sky accidents. Right? So then they have to make sure you cannot fly over houses. You have to fly over certain place, right or not? And then what is that? Unmanned aircraft flying.
Unmanned drones. They're already there.
Yeah, but then unmanned crash also. It's going to happen, right? People are going to go when they take a race, they don't mind, and then crashes will happen. Then they'll fix, right? Version 1, version 2. By the time they come to version
now
10,
cars and all, everything is automatic cars.
Yeah, they're trying
crashing.
to. Yeah, they're all crashing.
Software.
Software bug.
Tesla got it.
Who will be responsible?
No, but it won't stop. They will fix those bugs and just keep going.
Meantime, there will be
Some people die. That's okay. They'll say.
What's the big deal? Instead of physical warfare, now somebody wants to hack into the system and they constantly.
Yeah. Now is that data.
Constant war.
Constant war.
Big data. It's all big data. Means money. If you know information of a person, it's useful. You can blackmail them, or you can force them to support you, like in the elections and all, something like that. So people want big data, and that's what internet is all about. In modern age, is to how to, like you say, hack into the system. Sometimes you wonder why they are in the internet in the first place, right? Some of this information, they should be separately stored within the company, and the access should be different. No?
Yeah, olden days and all, bank and all, it was passbook.
Yeah.
And you go there, they write it.
Yeah.
So only you know and they know.
Yeah. So then they have to create identification system, right? Camera, finger, so many things you have to do. Finally, in the end, they'll say, go into the computer. Like that to fix it.
There was no concept of electronic money. Right? Yeah, there was no concept of
concept,
electronic money.
Now
No,
everything is electronic.
now it is
Now it's all virtual.
Virtual money.
Now it's Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's even scary.
it's scary because people don't know how to use bitcoins. So therefore it's scary. But they'll fix a way, find a way.
Yeah.
Tech 17.
Nahyagnimukhatoyam var. Bhagavan sarvayagnabhok.
Bhagavan sarvayajnabhuk.
Ijjeta havisarajan.
Yajeta havisarajan.
Yata vipramukhe hutai.
Yata vipramukhe hutai.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the enjoyer of sacrificial offerings. Yet although his lordship eats the oblations offered in the fire, my dear king, he is still more satisfied when nice food made of grains and ghee is offered to him through the mouths of qualified brahmanas. So, the statements are there, eating through the mouths of brahmanas. That's how it is. And he wants it in ghee, no? Not some oil. Right? It says havisha. So that means butter. But people argue, ghee is no good, heart problem. So they want to use oil. The Prabhupada says in the purport, oil, however, is never recommended for offering in sacrificial fire. It means you're not supposed to use oil for cooking also. What to do? In Kali Yuga, the available quantity of food grains and ghee is gradually diminishing, and people are embarrassed that they cannot produce sufficient ghee and food grains. Right? But if you all get together and do the Sankirtan movement, all this thing will come. Krishna will bestow the mercy. And then we can get plenty of cows and ghee. So every house can have a cow in their backyard. Like that.
So whoever actually had in India, now they are giving it away,
Yeah.
and then they are constructing buildings.
Buildings. That's the problem. Maybe he can sit down and listen to us. So Prabhupada says, in our Sankirtan movement or Hare Krishna movement, we offer sumptuous prasad to the deity and later distribute the same prasad to the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas, and then to the people in general. Krishna's prasada is offered to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and the prasada of the Brahmanas and Vaishnava is offered to the general populace. This kind of sacrifice, chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and distribution of prasada, is the most perfect and bona fide way of offering sacrifice for the pleasure of Yajna or Vishnu. So that's what you are supposed to practice. You're supposed to cook nicely, offer Krishna, offer the devotees, go outside, give your neighbors, all those people like that. That way they will feel happy that you're giving them. They don't have to cook, like that. So they'll be happy.
But then they make it into an entitlement also. Like we used to give free prasadam in Seattle. And then people only come for prasadam. No concept of any spiritual progress. They don't resist that actually.
Yeah.
They eat prasadam and resist the spiritual message.
Yeah, that's true. But it'll affect. Takes a while, but it'll affect because you're creating some sukriti with them. So in due course, maybe if not in this life, in a few lifetimes later, they'll accumulate sufficient adhikar or agyata sukriti. And then they will listen. It will happen one day, These are like time bombs. Like that. Yeah. Right? Text 18.
Tasmat brahmana deveshu.
Tasmadhamanadevishu.
Ratyadishu yatartha. Teste kamen yajashva vainam. Kshetragnam brahmanam anu.
Therefore, my dear king, first offer prasada unto the brahmanas and the demigods. And after sumptuously feeding them, you may distribute prasada to other living entities according to your ability. In this way, you will be able to worship all living entities. Or in other words, the supreme living entity within every living entity. So it's a nice way to see. So we should do that. So if you cannot do it personally, you can always give some donation to the food truck, no? That's one way of doing it, like that. Yeah. Otherwise, you can go yourself, neighbor, door to door, and say, "Today is my birthday. I will give you some cake," like that. Right? You can do that. Yeah, yeah. People will accept it. Or you can say, "Today is my father's anniversary. Like that. Right. Today is my wedding anniversary." So many reasons.
Some anniversaries.
Some anniversary.
Or North Indians like idli dosa, call them.
Yeah, so you invite them, give them idli dosa, offer to Krishna. That's true. You can do that. And then if you want rajma, you go to the North Indian.
The difficulty is they will call Prabhu. If we call them, then they feel we are not coming there.
Right?
Formalities.
Oh, but you make them devotees, then you can go there. Enjoy. Yeah. So it will work in any case. Right. So similarly, animals also. Sometimes you can distribute food, but you have to be careful when you give animals. Then they will keep coming. Yeah. Like if you keep throwing outside your door, then the dogs, and then here in Samamish, bears will come. You don't want bears or deer also, right? Deer. Then you have to say, "Oh dear, what to do?" Right. So by feeding every living entity, you actually, in a sense, worshipping the Paramatma in the hearts of every living entity, which is what Narad Muni is saying here. All right. In this way, you will be able to worship all living entities. Yeah. But it doesn't mean just because the Lord is in the heart of all living entities that everyone has become Narayana. Then they'll say, again Prabhupada says, poor Narayana, Daridara Narayana. So that's nonsense. So he says such conclusion is rejected. Yeah. Text 19.
Kuryat apara pakshiyam
Kuryadapara Pakshiyam
Masi praushta pade dvaja
Masi Prausta Padedvija
Shraddam pitro yata vittam
Shraddam Pitro Yada Vittam
Tadbandunam chat vittavan
Tadabhuna Chadvitvavan. A Brahmana who is sufficiently rich must offer oblations to the forefathers during the dark moon fortnight in the latter part of the month of Bhadra, August-September. Similarly, he should offer oblations to the relatives of the forefathers during the Mahalaya ceremonies in the month of Ashwini, October-November. Mahalaya.
Mahalaya Amavasi.
During Durga Puja.
Durga Puja.
No, during Deepavali.
Amavasi is Diwali, no?
Diwali. Yeah.
Yeah, Durga all the same time around.
Oh, that one.
Text 2023, 223.
Ayane visuve kuryad
Ayane Shive Kuryat
Vyatipate dinakshaye
Vyadipate Vinashaye
Chandradityo parajecha
Chandradityo Parahecha
Dvadasam Sravaneshu cha
Dvadashyam Savaneshu Cha
Tritiyayam Shukla Pakshe
Titiyayam Shukla Pakshe
Navamyam Atakartike
Navamyam Atakartike Swapis.
Abhyata Kasu
Chaturashri Swapi Ashtakasu
Hemante Shishire Tata
Hemante Shireta
Mage Sita Saptamyam
Mahacha Sita Saptamyam
Magaraka Samagame
Magaraga Samagame
Rakaya Chanumatya Cha
Rakaya Chanumadhya Cha
Masharkshane Yutanyabi
Masarasani Yutanyabhi
Dvadasyam Anuradasya
Tadasyam Anuradasya
Shravanastisha Uttara
Shravanasya Uttara
Tishrishvekadashi Vasu
Tishrishvekadashi Vasu
Janmarkshasrona Yogayo
Janmakshasronayogayo. One should perform the Shraddha ceremony on the Makara Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move north. The solstice, no? Is it solstice? Summer solstice. Or on the Karkata Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move south. There's a winter solstice, is it? One should also perform this ceremony on the Mesha Sankranti day and the Tula Sankranti day in the yoga named Vyatipata, on that day in which 3 lunar tithis are conjoined during an eclipse of either the moon or the sun. On the 12th lunar day and in the Shravana Nakshatra, one should perform this ceremony on the Akshaya Tritiya day on the 9th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartika. On the 4 Ashtakas in the winter season and cool season, on the 7th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Magha, during the conjunction of Magha Nakshatra and the full moon day, and on the days when the moon is completely full or not quite completely full, when these days are conjoined in the nakshatras from which the names of certain months are derived. One should also perform the Shraddha ceremony on the 12th lunar day when it is in conjunction with any of the nakshatras named Anuradha, Shravana, Uttara Phalguni, Uttarashada, or Uttara Bhadrapada. Again, one should perform this ceremony when the 11th lunar day is in conjunction with either Uttara Phalguni, Uttarashada, or Uttara Bhadrapada. Finally, one should perform this ceremony on days conjoined with one's own birth star, Janma Nakshatra, or with Shravana Nakshatra. All you have to do is write an algorithm for this. Right? And then you just put the date and see whether it works out. There's quite a lot of information there just to do Shraddha.
Actually, one time, His Holiness Rompad Maharaj came and he said, today is Akshaya Tritiya day. It is a very important day to do it. By which time it was already like 7 p.m. in the night. We didn't know that.
To do Shraddha.
That day. Akshaya Tritiya's significance is there beyond Shraddha also.
Gold, right? When did the gold?
Everybody buy gold. Only.
That is
Gold, they buy
Gold.
That's what women invented it.
Yeah.
Well,
Now it became gold day.
Gold day.
oh, buy gold. There.
Buy gold.
Not
No,
for.
That's not what Srimad Bhagavatam says.
Yeah.
They start some auspicious.
Anything auspicious.
Yeah, so they buy gold auspicious so that I can accumulate more gold.
Inviting
Become
more
more
auspicious. More kali.
Some new work or something they start on.
Yeah. So Microsoft all agreed to let them work on that day.
No, they will start surface
Oh,
new product.
surface.
In
So
Andhra, once they started a rumor that you have to give your sister red saree on this day. So all the stores, red sarees are sold out and massive production of red sarees. So you can start anything, but it may not have significance.
now Prabhupada in the Prabhupada gives you all this zodiacal or astronomical information. You can read on your own the tithis and so on. But I'll just go to the portion where Srila Jiva Goswami has given quotations from many shastras stating that the Shraddha ceremony of oblations to the forefathers should not be performed on Ekadasi Tithi. Okay, when the Tithi of the death anniversary falls on the Ekadasi day, the Shraddha ceremony should be held not on Ekadasi but on the next day or Dwadasi. In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it is say, Ye kurvanti mahipala shraddham chaikadasi dine Trayaste narakam yanti data bhakta cha prirakaha. If one performs the Shraddha ceremony of oblation to the forefathers on the Ekadasi Tithi, then the performer, the forefathers for whom the Shraddha is observed, and the Purohit or the family priest who encourages the ceremony all go to hell. So basically, Ekadasi, you should only chant the holy name and then go to the temple, serve Krishna like that. You don't have to do any other things. These are more like rituals, and therefore they are of less priority. But if you worship Krishna completely, if you give up everything, then you don't even need to do Shraddha. Now, as a Vaishnava, the way we do Shraddha is we cook the bhoga, offer to Narayana, and then offer to the forefathers. That's how it's done. And they will get benefit like that. You don't need to go and get some purohit like that and then do. So Harivallabh don't have to do all this. So yagnas and so on. Like that. Next 24.
Tayete Shreya Sakala.
Tayete Shreya Sakala.
Nrinam Shreyo Vishar.
Vivardhana.
Nrinam Shreyo Vivardhana.
Kuryat Sarvatmana. Manaiteshu.
Kuryat Sarvatmanaiteshu.
Shreyamogam Tadayusha.
Shreyamogam Tadayusha.
All of these seasonal times are considered extremely auspicious for humanity. At such times, one should perform all auspicious activities, for by such activities, a human being attains success in a short duration of life. All right? Next verse, 25.
Actually, I have a question on the 23 in the purport.
Why are you going back?
I just had a question here. There are 27 different degrees of yoga.
I already said I don't want to touch those things.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
too detailed.
Yeah, you need to go and ask someone who does astrology.
Okay.
I don't understand astrology. No need astrology.
Okay.
Who is an expert in astrology? Nowadays, there's no astrologer who's very expert.
Everybody has
You can go to 3 astrologers and he'll tell you 3 different things.
exactly.
Okay, so therefore they don't know really the science properly. And you may say what this degree, that degree. I don't know how many degrees. Maybe take a protractor or whatever and measure the degree. That's about all I know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. If you want, you can ask someone who knows astrology. I'm not sure. Krishna Kirtan, no, he knows some astrology, but he doesn't know this.
He doesn't want to say.
He says it doesn't know.
Not astrology.
Not
Maybe a
astrology.
little bit like this happening in astronomy, maybe.
Astronomy, yeah. So you have to go and ask astronomy. And not many Indian astronomies are around, very difficult to understand this. The Vedic astronomy is totally different from the Western astrology.
Surya Siddhanta.
Yeah, part of it, yeah. Anyway, let's go to text 25.
Yeshu Sranam Japo Homo.
Yeshu Snanam Japo.
Natam
Natam
Devadijarchanam.
Devadijarchanam.
Pitrudevanubhutevyo.
Pitrudevanubhutevyo.
Yadatam Tatyanaswaram.
Yadatam Tatyanaswaram.
You sound you want to sleep like that, no? Siddhu? Sleepy Siddhu? Translation: during these periods of seasonal change, if one bathes in the Ganges, in the Yamuna, or in another sacred place, if one chants, offers fire sacrifices, or executes vows, or if one worships the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the forefathers, the demigods, and the living entities in general, whatever he gives in charity yields a permanent beneficial result. Now everybody wants to know what is that permanent beneficial result. Text 26.
Samskara khalu jayaya.
Samskara kala jayaya.
Apatyasat mana manastata
Apasyasya manasata
preta samstamritahascha
Veda samstamritasya
karmana vyudaye nripa.
Karmanya Vyudhe. O King Yudhishthira, at the time prescribed for reformatory ritualistic ceremonies for oneself, one's wife, or one's children, or during funeral ceremonies and annual death ceremonies, one must perform the auspicious ceremonies mentioned above in order to flourish in fruitive activities. So this is all for karma kanda. Now for us, we are only interested in praising Krishna, Hare Krishna. So therefore, we don't follow this. Rather, we will do everything to chanting of the holy name. So Prabhupada says, for Kali Yuga, the Shastras enjoin that Sankirtana Yagya be performed always. Kirtaniya Sadahari. All the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Shastras must be preceded and followed by Sankirtan. This is a recommendation of Srila Jiva Goswami. So that's why before we do a fire sacrifice, we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. After the fire sacrifice, we still do chanting. Otherwise, it is not considered complete in Kali Yuga. Because the Brahmanas are not qualified.
So why not simply do Kirtana?
Because people are attached to those things, the rituals and so on. Brahmanas are not clean also. Many times you see them, they will wear all, but they'll bite their fingernails, and then they don't wash, and they do all kinds of things. I've watched all of this thing, and I'm thinking, now I know why Prabhupada is so, Pakka, how we have to have a standard, right? And sometimes even I've seen they'll go to the bathroom, they come and they'll do something and they won't take bath, and then they just walk around, touch other things, and you're wondering, what is this, it's unclean, like that. Right? You go, even if you simply go in the bathroom, you have to wash your hands and feet and mouth like that. That also sometimes people don't do. So it is, yes, things like this are required, Kali Yuga, just because it's Kali Yuga doesn't mean we don't follow some level of cleanliness and stuff like that. So, but best of all is we should all be chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Okay, text 27-28.
Atadesham pravakshyami
Atadesham pravakshyami Dharmadishaya avahan Savai punyatamo deshaha Satpatram yatra labhyate Bimbam bhagavato yatra Sarvam etat characharam Yatraha brahmana kulam Tapo vidyadayanvitam. Narada Muni continued, now I shall describe the places where religious performances may be well executed. Any place where a Vaishnava is available is an excellent place for all auspicious activities. So now you know why Prabhupada didn't look at all this time and all those things. He just did all the ceremonies, and people will say, but he did it. Because any place where pure Vaishnava is always auspicious. Even building a build, people all want vastu, this too, that too. But actually, when you have a pure devotee, it's all taken care of. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the support of this entire cosmic manifestation, with all its moving and non-moving living entities. And the temple where the deity of the Lord is installed is a most sacred place. Furthermore, places where learned Brahmanas observe Vedic principles by means of austerity, education, and mercy are also auspicious and sacred. Like you can do yagna here in this house, because you're all chanting the name, mantra, and so on, like that. However, devotees are chanting, meditating, all these are best place. Okay. Even when we go into some communist places or in China, in hotel places, we chant and then we'll just do yagna, everything like in those days, in the early days. So somehow or other we make that place auspicious and then we do the religious ceremonies like that. In any case, most people don't understand this. Prabhupada says that at the present day, especially in big cities, people live in really small apartments and are not able to establish a deity or temple. It's very expensive in some of the cities. Like in Hong Kong, just to buy a place as big as this house will cost close to 20 million US dollars. Yeah. Very expensive. You have double and all this. Yeah. Yes. You have this and maybe as big as this house like that, ground floor, maybe you have to pay like 6-7 million. Prime property is so prime like that. It's ridiculously. It sounds like the Pied Piper, the transcendental Pied Piper, Krishna.
Yes,
Okay, continuing. Under the circumstances, therefore, the centers and temples being established by the expanding Krishna consciousness movement are the best sacred places for performing religious ceremonies. So do it at the temple. Although people in general are no longer interested in religious ceremonies or deity worship, the Krishna consciousness movement gives everyone the chance to advance in spiritual life by becoming Krishna conscious. So we should remember this, because sometimes people will say, I can't do this, I can't do that. So we invite them to the temple. Tell them we can do this for you. Give them some hope, because they have no hope mostly. Right? So do we continue or we stop here?
Whatever. Everybody.
13 more verses in this chapter.
13 more verses.
Complete? Yeah.
And then next.
Okay, 13 more verses. Text 29. Auspicious indeed are the places where there is a temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in which he is duly worshipped, and also the places where there flow the celebrated sacred rivers mentioned in the Puranas, the supplementary Vedic literatures. Anything spiritual done there is certainly very effective, because you cannot go to the local river or creek, right?
Colombia.
Yeah. Or Mississippi, also no, none of these are in the Puranas. So we only know rivers in the Puranas, all are mainly in Bharatvarsha. But if you have deity temple, then it's automatically transcendental. Okay, it's known as Vaikuntha actually. Prabhupada says the temple is like a Vaikuntha.
There's do you know the Rainier Mountain, right? There's some
Rainier?
Fall, Rainier Mountain.
Yeah.
Brahma,
Narada Falls.
Narada Falls.
Narada Muni used to be there.
Who said that?
It's there in the
It's
local.
written there.
Named
Oh, it's written there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, it tells-
Sthala Purana.
Indian saying.
No,
Indians.
If you go to
It says in
So he was
Indian
traveling
mythology.
if you go to Grand Canyon, many of the peaks are given the names of Shiva, Vishnu.
But
Doesn't mean
that, there's a
Where?
statement written
what they say.
that the Indians say that there was a saint called Narada.
Yeah.
Was,
No, but they say mythology also.
Not in means American Indian.
American.
No, they just give a
Native
name,
Americans.
Narada Falls.
No, but they said
but
there
they
was
wrote-
No, it is
saints.
correct. It's a saint from India. Like that's I think
Correct. I mean, they
No,
named
but
them
that-
falls by now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Like in Grand Canyon also, they just named it after 3 deities.
Yeah.
That's the explanation behind there was saint and didn't say that there was Narada.
No.
Basically, Theosophical Society gave that name to those falls.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, because it's like named after a great personality from the Indian Vedic culture. So Narada Falls. He didn't fall actually, but the water is
No, I
falling.
mean,
Narada visited.
I know. I'm just,
Narada Falls. Go like that.
Narada Falls.
I'm just joking. All right. So continuing in. where the deity's worship is transcendental. It does not belong to the material world. As I said, it is Vaikuntha like that. Then Prabhupada continues, but one should not go to the forest simply to live like a monkey. Monkeys and other ferocious animals also live in the forest, but a person who goes to the forest for spiritual culture must accept the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as shelter. Vanam gato yaddarim ashrayeta, taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. Right? Sometimes people just go to the forest and live naked like a monkey and do nothing. In the 60s and 70s, there were many people like that, thinking that they know what they do. In this age, therefore, since it is impossible to go to the forest for spiritual culture, one is recommended to live in the temple community as a devotee, regularly worship the deity, follow the regulatory principles, and thus make the place like Vaikuntha. Okay? So when you retire, that's what you should do, live in the temple community. And do service there. Why do you want to go to a forest? Even Vrindavan, all those forests are gone now. Practically now, no forest in Vrindavan. And even here, right, in the Seattle area also, all the forests are going. So the mountain lions also don't know where to go. Right? The deer also, you see, they're walking in the street. Because they don't know where to go. So they say, if you take our place, we'll come to your place. That's what's happening. Yeah. The whole idea of constructing a community based around Krishna consciousness is to give shelter for practicing devotee or new devotees like that, so that they can at least understand how to do all these practices. If everybody goes to the forest nowadays, who will teach anyone? Right? Correct.
Even in the communities also, some communities have flourished very well and some haven't. Like Shanto Maharaj in Miami was saying that at one point they had a complete building of devotees. Now there's nobody.
You see, unless you're doing it properly, you lose taste.
Yeah. And everybody left.
Out of when everyone says, "Hey, let's do this," everyone feels like fired up. But when they all do, is really this is not what I want. Yeah. So therefore, they give it up. If you want to do such things, you have to have people who can inspire you. Otherwise, you cannot sustain those things. Then naturally, you'll go back to the material world. Try to work again, go back, and then because otherwise you'll go crazy. You cannot sustain yourself. So it's important. Huh? And then Prabhupada explains in the paragraph after, he says, this is aside from all these things, temple worship. If a Grihastha devotee worships a Shaligram Shila, or the form of the deity at home, his home also becomes a very great place. It was therefore customary for members of the three higher classes, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, to worship the Shalagram Shila, or a small deity of Radha, Krishna, or Sitaram in each and every home. And therefore it became very auspicious. But he says now they have given up the deity worship. So nowadays devotees will have deities at home, but they don't worship properly also. So if you go to some of the devotees' home, you'll see there may be cobwebs, or the outfits they never change for how many years. Right? Whereas they will buy their own clothing every month, like that. Yeah, don't laugh. I've seen all this. So we have to understand this is what we are doing. Worship of deity means we are worshipping the Supreme Lord properly. Of course, Prabhupada says there's so many beautiful places to go in our still at this moment, like Jagannath Puri, Vrindavan, Haridwar, Rameshwar, Prayag, Mathura, like that. If you can go, you should go, but don't go to a place like Muktinath, where it's so difficult to go. What else? Where another place? Kedarnath,
Badrinath.
but all difficult. So people go there and they die. People actually go there to die also.
It's called Antim Prasthan.
Yeah, but then there are people who just want to go, but then they die also. So you have to be careful. Unnecessarily, we shouldn't risk. Yeah. So, text 30 to 33.
Saransi Pushkaradini
Saransi Pushkaradini
Kshetranya Arhas
Vithani Uta Kurukshetram Gaya Shira Naimisham Falgunam Setu Tapasota Kushastali Varanasi Madhuri Pamba Bindu Saraswata Narayana Shramonanda Sita Shramadaya Sarve Kulachala Rajan Mahendra Malayadaya Hede Punyatma Desha Hare Archashritastraye Etan Deshan Nisheveta Shreyasa Moya Vikshnasaha Dharmo hi atrehita pumsam Sahasradi Valodaya. The sacred lakes like Pushkara is where Brahma, no? And places where saintly persons live like Kurukshetra, Gaya, Prayaga, Kulashrama, Naimisharanya, the banks of the Falgu river, Setubandha, Prabhasa, Dwaraka, Varanasi, Mathura, Pampa, Bindu Sarovara, Badrikashrama, Narayanashrama, the places where the Nanda river flows, the places where Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita took shelter, such as Chitrakuta, and also the hilly tracts of land known as Mahindra and Malaya. All of these are to be considered most pious and sacred. Similarly, places outside India where there are centers of the Krishna consciousness movement and where Radha Krishna deities are worshipped must all be visited and worshipped by those who want to be spiritually advanced. One who intends to advance in spiritual life may visit all these places and perform ritualistic ceremonies to get results 1,000 times better than the results of the same activities performed in any other place. So Prabhupada included ISKCON temples there, you know. Yeah. So you should know our temple here in Nilamadava is auspicious.
Actually, people come from quite far away.
That's good, yeah. Shouldn't take it for granted. So we also should go and see the deities and ask for their blessings like that. So our movement is set up to help people, to give them the best welfare activity for human society. That's the main reason. We are not for any other purposes. Okay. Otherwise, everything is not done properly. People are bewildered. Mogasha, moga karmano, moga jnana vechata. They are only going after fruitive activities without any spiritual life. They are totally bewildered. But when we set up the temple nicely, have nice programs, people are attracted to that, you know. So that's what you all should do, no? Keep continuing, inviting people, and they will come slowly. Text 34. Patram tu atra niruktam vai.
Patram tu atra niruktam vai.
Vittamai.
Kaveri Bhattavittamai.
Hare Evaika Urvisha.
Hare Devaika Urvisha.
Janmayam Vaicharacharam.
Yanmayam Vaicharacharam. O King of the earth, it has been decided by expert, learned scholars that only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in whom all that is moving or non-moving within this universe is resting and from whom everything is coming, is the best person to whom everything must be given. So, whatever you do, offer it to Krishna. Very simple. Prabhupada says Narada Muni has already described the Desha, place, and Kala, time. The Kala has been described in verses 20 through 24, beginning with the words Ayane Vishuve Kuryar Vyatipate Dinakshaye. And the places for giving charity or performing ritualistic ceremonies have been described in verses 30 through 33, beginning with Sharamsi Puskaradini Kshetrani Arhastritani Utha. Now to whom everything must be given is decided in this verse. Harif Evaika Urvisha Yanmayam Vai Charachar. Because why? Because he is the owner of everything. And so Prabhupada quotes the verse from Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam. And then he quotes from 4th Canto. Yathataro Mulanishyanina Pripyanti Tatskanda Bhujo Pashasakaha Pranopaharaccha Yatendriyanam Tataiva Sarva Anamachyuteja. By worshipping or satisfying Achyuta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, one can satisfy everyone. Everyone, not only some. Just as one can water the branches, leaves, and flowers of a tree simply by watering its root, or as one satisfies all the senses of the body by giving food to the stomach. Therefore, a devotee simply offers everything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to receive the best results of charity, religious performances, sense gratification, and even liberation. Text 35.
Devarshi Arthat Vaitatsu.
Devarshi Arhatsu Vaisatsu.
Tatra
Brahmatmajadishu.
Rajanyat Agra Pujayam.
Rajanyat
Mata Patratayachyuta.
O King Yudhishthira, the demigods, many great sages and saints, including even the 4 sons of Lord Brahma, and I myself were present at your Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. But when there was a question of who should be the first person worshipped, everyone decided upon Lord Krishna, the Supreme Person. No need to say anything. Remember, that's where who is killed? Shishupal. So that's where the discussion is coming from. Text 36.
Not everybody agrees with Krishna. Not everybody agrees that Krishna was supposed to be was the person supposed to be worshipped. Right? Only Shishupal didn't agree.
That's what
That's what Prabhupada says there. Thank you for the comment.
Okay, next one.
Text 36.
Jivarati Virakri Akirna. Andakosan Gripa Mahan.
Andakosam Gripo Mahan. Tanmulatvana Chiteja. Tarpanam. The entire universe, which is full of living entities, is like a tree whose root is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Achyuta, Krishna. Therefore, simply by worshipping Lord Krishna, one can worship all living entities. Right? if you go to the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada writes, there are living entities everywhere. Not only one or two, but Jiva Rasi Bihi, many millions of living entities. Even on the sun, there are living entities, although it is a fiery planet. The chief living entity on the sun is called Vivaswan. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Praptavan Aham Avyaya. All the different planets are filled with different types of living entities according to different living conditions. To suggest that only this planet is filled with living entities and that others are vacant is foolish. This betrays a lack of real knowledge. Because now that's what most scientists do with their telescope, They look everywhere and say nobody is living. Text 37.
Purananena Sristani
Purananena Sristani
Nritya Devata Sete Jivena Rupena
Bureshu Purushoyaso. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has created many residential places like the bodies of human beings, animals, birds, saints, and demigods. In all of these innumerable bodily forms, the Lord resides with the living being as Paramatma. Thus he is known as the Purushavatara. Right? There's three types of Purushavata. The first one is Karanadaksha Mahavishnu. The second one is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And the third one is so this one is Shirodakshaya Vishnu. Let's go to the next verse, 38.
Teshveva Bhagavan
Rajams
Taratanyena Vartate
Tasmat Patram Hi Purusho Yavan Atmayate. O King Yudhishthira, the super soul in every body gives intelligence to the individual soul according to his capacity for understanding. Therefore, the super soul is the chief within the body. The super soul is manifested to the individual soul according to the individual's comparative development of knowledge, austerity, penance, and so on. So immediately when you hear the word the super soul gives intelligence, you remember Matta Smriti Jnanam Apohanam. Yeah?
And also super soul is the chief.
He is the chief. Yeah, of course. Supreme Lord is always the chief. Right? Who's that? Your daughter? Reminds me of pigeons. Dove. Or we can say dove. Ooh, like that. Yeah?
She felt bad.
She's trying to sleep. She will only sing and sleep.
Oh, okay. So anyway, Prabhupada says also that the lower species, apart from human species, they cannot take instructions from the super soul. Very hard for them because they don't have the consciousness like that. But it is possible for the advanced human being. But of course, if we ourselves act like animals, right, then we also cannot hear the instructions of the super soul. It's very difficult like that. Yeah. So Prabhupada says, beginning from Brahma down to the end, everyone is conducted by the super soul. But because of a particular person's advancement in spiritual consciousness, he is considered to be important. Therefore, the Brahmana Vaishnava is important, and above all, the super soul, the personality of Godhead, is the most important personality. Okay? Oh, she's sleepy. She can't sleep. Sometimes babies are like that. They only want a certain type. Fussy. Maybe there's too much noise here. All the chanting is disturbing. Text 39.
दृष्ट्वा तेषां नितोरणम्
दृष्ट्वा तेषां नितोरणम्
अवज्ञानात्मनं नृपा
अवज्ञानात्मनं नृपा
त्रेतादिषु हरेर्चा
त्रेतादिषु हरेर्चा
क्रियायैकविभीकृता.
My dear king, when great sages and saintly persons saw mutually disrespectful dealings at the beginning of Treta Yuga, deity worship in the temple was introduced with all paraphernalia. Nice to know, right? So in Treta Yuga, deity worship became prominent because people were not able to do meditation anymore. Like that. And that means in Treta Yuga, they were starting to become envious of one another. So therefore, you cannot sit and respect another great personality.
So literally disrespectful dealings.
Yeah. So they cannot work together. So Prabhupada writes, in Satya Yuga, every person was spiritually advanced and there was no envy between great personalities. Gradually, however, because of material contamination with the advance of the ages, disrespectful dealings appeared even among Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Now it's like normal. Prabhupada then makes another distinction. Actually, an advanced Vaishnava is to be respected more than Vishnu. Such a heavy statement, huh? People say, how you can talk like that? Then he proves the point by quoting from Padma Purana. Aradhanam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param. So, the Lord Vishnu is the topmost person to worship, but better than him is that which tadyanam, right? That which is connected to Vishnu. Yeah. Of all kinds of worship of Lord Vishnu is best. Tasmat parattaram devi tadyanam samarchanam. So that is very important. Okay. So that's why our dealings with one another is important. We should deal nicely because you don't know who is very advanced. Or maybe he's not advanced today, maybe next week he'll be more advanced then. 1 year later, it may be pure. So we have to always treat all Vaishnavas properly. If they are nonsense, just don't deal with them, but don't say anything offensive. You know, let Krishna deal with those kind of situations. Right? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that a Vaishnava is he who has helped others become Vaishnavas. So for us also, we should try our best to help others become a devotee because it will be beneficial for us and beneficial for the other person. And that for that very reason, you should try to help others become devotees. But you can't force people, but by your behavior, you can help others take up the process at least. You know, if you are lovingly showing them, and they will be touched in their hearts, and they will take up the process. Because they want to be like you sometimes. Prabhupada then says in the middle of the paragraph, in Kali Yuga, worship of deity is being neglected. Okay. Therefore, chanting Hare Krishna mantra is more powerful than deity worship. But we still need the deity worship because it will help us purify. And so when we do deity worship, we should not be neglectful of the deity's needs. Clean the place nicely, keep things away like that. Yeah. So because for Mahaprabhu wanted us to do chanting and so on, we should chant with very determination. Chant nicely, yeah, properly also. Okay. In the middle of that paragraph, in the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada, something like middle, right? It has actually been seen that even an authorized devotee who's engaged in the service of the Lord by preaching the mission of Krishna consciousness is sometimes criticized by a neophyte devotee. He's talking about himself. He's preaching and people are saying bad things about him. So then Prabhupada says such neophytes, that means they don't know what they are talking, are described by Vishwanath Chakravarti. Sarva prani sammanana samartanam avakya spartadimatum tu bhagavat pratimaiva patram iti aha. For those who cannot properly appreciate the activities of authorized devotees, deity worship is the only way for spiritual advancement. So now you understand why you need to do deity worship also. Not that you just think you can chant, but you may not be able to focus properly. Then you commit offenses when you see advanced devotee. So best is you do deity worship to get purified. And then he says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is clearly said, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahetara Pravartana. This is important because you cannot preach Krishna consciousness unless you are empowered by the Lord Himself. So someone who is always successful, even though you may not like them, then you should accept that Krishna has empowered him and not you. So you better, be careful how you deal with them. Yeah. Nevertheless, he says, a devotee who does so is criticized by neophyte devotees. So he's again talking about what he has done and what people are speaking about him. Kanista Adhikaris, who are on the lower stage of devotional service. For them, deity worship is strongly recommended. That means you just keep worshipping, don't disturb the other guy who's preaching. Text 40. Samshradaya saparyaya upasada upasapi nartada purushadisham. Sometimes a neophyte devotee offers all the paraphernalia for worshipping the Lord, and he factually worships the Lord as the deity. But because he is envious of the authorized devotees of Lord Vishnu, the Lord is never satisfied with his devotional service. So this is part of the reason why sometimes we are not successful. We are doing so much, you may think, but you may not be respecting the devotees of Krishna. So that, again, I say be careful. Please, be respectful of everyone. You do not know what their relationship or intimacy is with Krishna. Text 41. Purusheshwapi Rajendra Supatram Brahmanam Vidu Tapasa Vidyaya Tushya Date Vedam Harestanam. My dear king, of all persons, a qualified Brahmana must be accepted as the best within this material world, because such a Brahmana, by practicing austerity, Vedic studies and satisfaction, becomes the counterpart body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Every living entity is an individual person, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the Supreme Person. Which verse is that? Nityo Nityanam So basically, if you are well versed and if you practice very nicely, then you should be considered to be a superior Vaishnava or Brahmana. In this case, Prabhupada is distinguishing between a Brahmana and Vaishnava. So he says a Vaishnava is superior to a Brahmana because whereas a Brahmana knows that he is Brahman, not matter, a Vaishnava knows that he is not only Brahman but also an eternal servant of the Supreme Brahman. Okay. Therefore, when a Vaishnava worships the deity, his worship is superior. Okay. When a Brahmana worships, his worship is not as advanced. He's a transcendentalist, but he's not seeing himself as a servant. And that's why they cannot preach sometimes. Right? Sometimes you see this person is a nice Brahmana from this Sampradaya, but they are not thinking that I'm a servant. So they cannot preach. Whereas you can see in the Gaudiya Math, particularly how we are always able to attract, even though we are not qualified, because of Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Shakshat Daridvena Samastra Shastra. Means the Brahmana who's topmost, in this case the spiritual master, he becomes the best of Brahmanas. Why? Because he's representing the Supreme Lord. Not that he's saying he's the Supreme Lord, but he is 10% representing the Lord. He's not at all talking about himself. Okay. But to think that he is God is wrong. So Prabhupada says that is blasphemous. Okay, so we shouldn't think anyone is God. Although a Brahmana or Vaishnava is worshipped as being as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such a devotee always remains faithful servant of the Lord and never tries to enjoy the prestige that might accrue to him from being the Supreme Lord's representative. So Prabhupada himself is represented here. Because when sometimes devotee would come to pray and he would just close his eyes and pay obeisance again. And so one time, one devotee asked Prabhupada, who are you praying to? When we pay obeisance, you say, I pray to my spiritual master. Whatever you give, I'm giving it back to him. So then the devotee who paid realized this is very advanced, that so he took shelter of Prabhupada. Like that. So in the movement also in the early days, people were thinking at one point that because Prabhupada is so amazing, and so Prabhupada really got disturbed by this. So then he told some of his sannyasi disciples who were spreading that rumor to step out of the movement and go and preach for a few years or months like that before he allowed them back. So therefore, spiritual master may be very good, but we shouldn't do those kind of things and say that he's God. So that is wrong. Finally, text 42.
Nanvasya Brahmana Rajan
Nanvasya Brahmana Rajan
Krishnasya Jagadatmanaha
Krishnasya Jagadatmanaha
Punanta Padarajusa
Punanta Padarajusa
Trilokim Daivatam Mahat
Trilokim Daivatam Mahat. My dear King Yudhishthira, the Brahmanas, especially those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord throughout the entire world, are recognized and worshipped by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the heart and soul of all creation. The Brahmanas, by their preaching, sanctify the three worlds with the dust of their lotus feet, and thus they are worshipable even for Krishna. Because they are trying to help others, Krishna becomes very attracted to them and feels great joy in even worshipping their lotus feet. Like that. So Prabhupada says, even though he's the Supreme Lord, he recognizes such person as dearmost to him. Like that. So Brahmanas want to worship Krishna, or Vaishnavas want to worship Krishna. Similarly, Krishna wants to worship the Brahmanas. Because out of affection and love, basically. So that is the relationship between the two. Thus, in the Bhakti and the purpose of the 7th Canto, 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you.
Thank you.